Welcome to Play Misty for You. Now it's like Wheel of Fortune. Play Misty for you. My mom, one time, my grandparents were in town and we went to this place. I think it was called Hooligans in Dallas. And I was a kid about, I don't know how old I was, 10 maybe. Anyways, the place where we got sat was this long row of booths. It was almost like a hallway of just booths. And on either end of the booths in this hallway, it had mirrors. When you turn to look, it looks like the booths go down forever. My grandparents are in town. It's probably the holidays. We're having a special family outing. My mom had gone to the bathroom, and when she came back, she was wanting to rush and tell me that there was I guess a telegram dancer, I don't know, something in the front part of the restaurant that she wanted me to see. She's yelling, "Misty, Misty." She tears past our booth, and to our credit, we all just sat there, turned our heads as we watched her run by. She smacked right into that mirror. Oh my God, even her own parents weren't but yeah, that was a good holiday. I'm going through learning about the vagal state and how the body is safe and social and expressive. If connection must be earned, authenticity will always be forfeited. So I'm going through some type of growth where I'm realizing that growth isn't fun, but I'm realizing that my nervous system learned to equate connection with responsibility. That if I'm contributing, I'm not trespassing. And what this looks like is feeling the need to earn my keep to be in the room instead of valuing my own worth and knowing I have an inherent right to be in the room. And the way this probably got started in childhood was my mother had a disease of myasthenia gravis, which is under the MS umbrella. And her brain worked and her extremities worked, but the synapse that connected the two would go offline sometimes. She would tell her arm to move and sometimes it wouldn't move. And she did go into crisis a couple of times where her lungs went out. And yeah, it was pretty scary growing up. And I remember that word crisis. If you go out and play and have fun with your friends, you could come back and there'd be an ambulance there because she would go into crisis. And it did get to the point where I'm like, you know what? I'll stay home. I'll stay home because I don't have a dad. I don't have brothers. I don't have sisters. She was the only child. I was the only child. I don't have aunts. I don't have uncles. My grandparents live in Hot Springs. She's my sole administrator of food. And why don't we just stay in and make sure this lady doesn't go into crisis on us while we're out playing kickball? So I was understandably codependent on her well-being. What it did was I became essentially a butler more than a free-spirited child. And yes, this is all her fault. We are blaming her. I am a victim. No. The beauty of recovery and applying, especially ACA principles and steps, is that I get to be on a fact-finding mission without needing to be a victim, without needing to have a villain. It's not her fault that she was sick, and it's not her fault that I was her only dependent. But it created circumstances that now in adulthood is really, really fun to constantly show up and subconsciously think, they like me, now can I deliver again? What will they expect from me? What if I can't replicate what made them like me? What if it was a fluke? What if I was wearing borrowed confidence? One of the times I really noticed this was back in 2005. My baby daddy and I came out here to Los Angeles. We were living in Dallas. We came to visit, and one of the stops in our itinerary was a friend of a mutual friend of ours who worked on TV and film, and he was an audio engineer. And he happened to be working on the TV show Stormtroopers and suggested that we come by the lot. We could see the set, and we go, we meet him. We're on the set. The set design was amazing. This was my first time on a lot. I was gobsmacked. It was everything I had thought it would be when I was a kid in Dallas watching TV and movies. And it was just, here we are. We are behind the curtain. We are watching the magic happen. And we're talking with our friend. Casper Van Diem walks by at some point, and my heart's aflutter. And I realize everybody there is working, and I just start to feel like I'm imposing. This is not an old idea for me. Well, thank you so much for having us. We'll get out of your hair now. We have to go. And as we're walking back to the car, Jason said, we were invited to go to lunch with them. That was the plan. We were supposed to go have lunch. And I didn't know that part, but I couldn't stay any longer. I wasn't contributing. People were working and doing things, and I didn't have a role that was contributing, so I must be imposing. And that's one of the first times I remember putting that 2 + 2 together. So yeah, and if connection has to be earned, authenticity will always be forfeited. I'm not so much abandoning myself to impress, I'm abandoning myself to prevent disaster. And I guess disaster is people leaving, people not liking. I'm only allowed to be here if I'm useful to someone. If I'm not serving, I don't belong. If I'm not managing everyone's perception, I might disappear. And the only way for me to pogo this belief is to have a stable relationship with myself, to build a relationship with my inner self that creates safety and stability and almost like a reparenting. Another one that comes to mind is a baby shower that was here in Santa Monica. And I knew the host, but I really didn't know any of the other participants. And I found myself out on her porch at a table with about 10 or 12 other people, and someone asked a question of me. I reply, and I get a laugh, and we're off to the races now. Another person asked another question of me, and I am holding court at this bougie baby shower. She had this thing where it was set up for facials and massages and pedicures. It was a whole scene, and everybody was taking turns. So they called me as I'm holding court, and everyone's holding their belly and laughing and falling over themselves. And it's my turn to go inside. And I come back out about 20 minutes later, and I go to the porch, and these 10 or 12 people, they're doing fine. They're having a great conversation. I sit and observe, and I realize, oh, there's a biochemical engineer here. There's a doula. There's a ninth court circuit judge. There are so many interesting people here. And had I not been pulled in to go to the massage, to this day, I could still be holding court at that table. And it was another realization, and I'm going to give myself a break here, because in the past, I always thought it was ego. It was ego. I have to be the center of attention. And I'm realizing the more I'm going into the work that I'm doing is that it's the silence that I'm concerned I will be responsible for. That if there's a lag now in the conversation, I will be held responsible for the silence. Oh, wow. So I keep it moving, laughter, I'm safe. Attention, I matter. Interest, I exist. Silence, it's disappearing. There's disappointment. I failed. It's rewiring my nervous system to accept silence as being a positive thing, not a negative thing, allowing the awkward pause and not rescuing it. That is the way for me to not abandon myself. And that's one example. Yeah, letting a joke die instead of reviving it, letting there be empty air. It reminds me this work that I'm doing to rewire my nervous system and to not abandon myself, a stand up who has been doing the same set for 20 years and knows when they get on stage that these certain jokes at these certain times are going to kill and the audience is going to laugh, but they need to do a new special and they need to practice their new material and be vulnerable and maybe not get the laugh and see what works and do it in front of an audience real time. And so for me, it's not like it's new material. The new material would be my authentic self, the wiring that's not from, I have to appease, I have to work for my place here. And it's uncomfortable, but it is powerful. Is that the word I want to use? Empowering to be honed in on my experience and be willing to try new ways to have a new experience. It's like a science experiment. You know, if I take this away, what happens? If I put that in, what happens? And it's actually stepping away from any type of manufactured personality to get down to the authentic. And the authentic, I think the fear is, what if the authentic isn't as great as the manufactured, as the trauma stand-up personality that was created? And today, that's okay. Today, the way I'm feeling in this moment is I would rather be true to myself and not get a laugh built on an old set. Yeah, I would rather have a new experience. I had this analogy a while back, which was I was doing some research on neuroplasticity because I don't have to justify it. Just because I'm blonde doesn't mean I can't do research on neuroplasticity in the brain and how it works. But it was saying that what happens as you age is it's like a snow embankment. Let's say you're in Big Bear and it snowed and there's an embankment that's 30 feet high. And the only pathway to a store is this general store where it's wilted lettuce, there's expired stuff. Like that is the brain of someone who's not consistently growing. The car will just automatically drive in that 30-foot embankment, the one way that's plowed, to this general store where it's wilted lettuce, where, you know, everything's expired and you're trying to make a meal out of old Betty Crocker brownies and you don't have any eggs, you don't have any milk. There we go. But when I start examining and I start trying things that are uncomfortable, I start letting the silence. I start saying the thing that might not be popular. I start just being true to myself and getting comfortable with that. Then all of a sudden the snow melts and there's a million choices. I can go to, I was going to say Albertsons. I think that's a Dallas thing. I can go, there's definitely not a Piggly Wiggly here. That is a Arkansas thing. There is a Vons. Oh my God, how boring does that sound after saying, well, Albertsons. There was Tom Thumbs in Dallas too. So we have Tom Thumbs in Dallas, Piggly Wigglies in Arkansas, and Vons in Los Angeles. Well, we have a Vons. We have a Pavilions too, which sounds really fancy, but it is. It's not like Erewhon. So basically you would have your choices in your brain when you are willing to be uncomfortable. They say that you should take a different way home from work every day so that your brain doesn't do exactly what I'm talking about, like a literal analogy of it. So that is precision without vulnerability can look powerful, but it's still armor. And the equation that my nervous system built early is if I matter to someone, now I have to manage them. It's like emotional hostage training. I learned it at home. When someone needs me, my job is to contort until harmony repairs so that When love arrives, I don't celebrate it. I brace for impact. Will I stay interesting to them? And the reframe is, will I stay myself? Today's sponsor is OtisIncLA.com. Precision wheel parts that help you move with alignment, not fear. Use Misty today. That is Misty, the number 2, DAY at checkout for a free upgrade from ground shipping to 2-day air. Because sometimes when you're ready to move forward, it helps when the parts show up on time. Do you like it? I like it. Okay, also, please email me. What is our question for the day? Where do you wear armor? Are you wearing armor in your life? And are you ready to set it down and show up raw? Does that scare you? What does it do? Where does that show up? Please email me at pmfy@mistymcafee.com. P is in Misty, F is in Frank, at mistymcafee.com. And thank you so much.